Okay, everybody, let's get started with our walk through the file. The purpose of this video is to just give you a few tips and strategies for your read through the file. Now, quick flipping through it, you noticed the file was 12 pages, the library was 17. Heavy on law in this particular performance test. But as we've discussed, in order to understand that law, you've got to have a sense of who your client is. And to understand what the assignment is, you've got to read the instructions. So our walk through the file begins with the instructions because the document you'll get will be called Instructions and File. It'll be a booklet. And here you have it in order. So in the instructions, a couple of notes, and I'm just highlighting key points here. I'm not going to go over every little piece of it. The highlights are these. Your setting Columbia and your cases are all Columbia Supreme Court cases. What does that mean? They're all binding and they're all going to be good law unless one overrules the other. So you want to pay attention to the dates on the cases. You know you're an associate. You know your firm represents Henry Carelton, who's an individual suing a company, Mid-Central Shipping. And you know that Henry was injured, so you're in tort law. It's a personal injury case, you know you're in tort law. What's your assignment? You also know that. You're to draft a memo. That's an internal document. So you are free to give the pros and cons. You are free to look at the theories and to assess whether or not Henry has a good case. Now, what is the partner asking of you specifically? In the intra-office memo to associate, that's to you, he says he needs your help in thinking through the case. That doesn't mean a slam dunk. That means you're assessing pros and cons, right? Don't be too one-sided. Analyze. The context is you're preparing for arguing against the defendant's pretrial motion to dismiss. What does that mean? They say you don't have a case. You are trying to allege that you do. So you want to establish the liability theory on which Henry can sue Mid-Central. And the tasks are spelled out on the second page in the Roman numerals 1 and 2. In your memorandum, please address the following. Okay. What's the next document? Abner Goodfellow, who's he? Our senior partner told us he's the retired judge who gave us the case. He tells us a little more about the facts of the case. You can read through it. Again, I'm not going to read through it all of it. But he tells you both things that are at issue and some things that may not be. For example, he says the power company had nothing to do with this. So you're not going to amend the complaint to actually sue the power company because they had nothing to do with it. But it tells you a little more about what happened in this case. Those are key facts, but because they're coming from a third party, the judge, we may have to verify them. And you know in your second part, you've got room to verify. The next document, EBB, who's that? That's Ed Brown. That's your senior partner. And it's his rough notes with his interview with Henry Carelton. Again, more facts, and it tells you some interesting things. One of the things I'd hoped you would have noticed as you're reading through it, visually, how certain things are underlined and have question marks. Those are factual holes. What do you know about your assignment? One of the things you had to do was list places where you had factual or proof problems or where you might need more facts. This document, pages 3 and 4, give you really some nice fodder, some nice food for thought to put into that second part of the memo. Okay? It also talks about the fact that they got in through an open gate, no one said anything, and when the gate was closed, they didn't go in there. Very important details in these facts, but you wouldn't completely understand the significance of all of it until you read the library. So you're skimming now, and then you're going to come back to this once you've read the library. You've also got rough notes with the mom, who again was asked to sit outside. Why? That takes away any professional responsibility issue that she might have influenced her son, because remember, he's the client, whether she's paying the bills or not, he's the client. And there's more of those question marks. Tells you a little bit about the damages and the injuries and the amount there. Next document is interesting. It's an internal memo. He said it was posted on the warehouse before his entries. How did we get this document? Did anybody wonder that? And it's to all their employees talking about how they should get rid of intruders. So it's incredibly powerful evidence that they knew that they had these people on the property. And that's really, really important. Then you have the complaint, which again, our senior partner had told us was not at all good enough. So you're going to be looking at it not for actually all that it contains, but what it might be missing, because you're thinking about amending the complaint. And if you look at it, all it says is negligence. It doesn't really say any details particularly. And the last document is the motion to dismiss, very, very short. And it simply says to dismiss based on Henry being a trespasser, then there being no intentional or wanton and willful conduct on the part of Mid-Central. But we're not going to have a problem defeating this likely, because we're going to likely allege that they engaged in negligence rather than any kind of intentional or willful conduct. But you'll know more when you see what the theories are by what's presented in the library. So this was just a brief walk through the file, kind of echoing some of the points we touched on and giving you an anchor to sort of say, well, what did I see when I went through that first read of the file? Did I miss anything? And as you go back now, hopefully you'll see some of the key points. Again, skimming that file, what should you have picked up on? So that'll do it for our walk through the file. We'll come back together and look at a walk through the library.